Okay, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you are well. Thank you to everybody who has joined. Let me try and see how many people are with me. Okay, brilliant. So, alaikum assalam, al-Kazaz. Hope you are well. As you can see, if you check in the chat, you've got the link there. Sorry, I was just getting some back feed on myself there. So you can check on the chat. The link is there for anybody who has anything that they'd like to contribute to today's stream. I'm using my main mic this time. Last time I was using the headphones, and when I listened to it back on YouTube, it wasn't very clear. So hopefully this time the audio quality is much better. I've also tinkered around with using this presentation from LogSync, which is a browser presentation, and that's what I'm going to be using to present my little bit of contemplation to add to this caravan. But please, anybody who has something they can share, please make sure you do come on. It will be great to hear from others. Okay, so let me get on with what I wanted to share for today. So there's this verse in the Quran. It's an allegory, and it's an example that God has presented, and it's supposed to show the difference in the way people can receive the revelation. It talks about how God sends down from the sky rain, and the valleys flow according to their capacities, meaning that the water goes into the different valleys according to the capacity of each valley. So you might have a very wide valley, or a very shallow valley, a very deep but narrow valley. You have different types of valleys of different shapes. Okay, so it talks about how these valleys take the different amounts of the water, and on that water there's also some foam, a froth, which is at the top. Okay, and a second example here, maybe it's not so clear, but it also says that in a similar way, that when we take iron ore, so for example gold or metal ore, and we put it into the fire in order to extract the gold, when you do that, have you ever seen that process being done, or just look it up online, you will see that there's also a froth which comes about. So if you see how when they're melting and purifying ore, gold or silver ore, then it starts to melt and there's a froth at the top of it. And it's just the same as when you have froth from like a flood of water which is coming down. And so the example goes that these are the two examples of the haqq and the batil. كذلك يضرب الله الحق والباطل. And what he says then is that the froth, فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً, the froth, it goes away, it dissipates. But that which actually benefits people, that stays on the ground. That stays on the ground. And the interesting thing about this is, of course, when rain comes down, it doesn't fill up the mountains. It doesn't fill up the high peaks. It fills up the low valleys. Okay, so those who are humble, the humble-hearted, that's where the revelation will go. So in putting this, I wanted to mention this because when discussing the different verses, which hopefully will come up in these streams, different people will bring up different verses, and they will tell us, what they think about them and some meanings that they've brought out from them. Now, it will depend on the shape of their own hearts. Okay, you will find different people that have different unique shapes of their own hearts, and so the water of the Quran will fill up their hearts in a different way. Okay, for different people. So some may look at verses and they gain from them something more spiritual. Some may gain things which are more psychological. Some may look at things about sociological affairs, or history or fiqh or anything like that. Different valleys of different shapes, you have different capacities. Yet they can all carry some of that water. And the issue of that is, of course, we should expect to hear views on verses from others that may not take the same shape as those verses would in our own hearts. Okay, so the water will come down somebody else's heart, it will take on a different shape, a little bit different. And when we listen to that, it might not resonate with us very much. Okay, it might not seem like this is what the verse is talking about. But remember, our own valleys do not encompass all of the water. Okay, some of the water ends up in that valley, some of them ends up in a different valley. So what somebody brings from the Quran which you don't understand, maybe it's not for you, maybe it's for somebody else. Okay, you're not going to encompass the whole of the Quran. Nobody does. Sometimes, however, the issue, and quite often now, the issue is actually, it's not the capacities or the shapes of the hearts. The issue is that there are dams preventing the water from reaching the valleys. Okay, sometimes the problem is that there are locks on the hearts. And so, you know, God says in another verse, فَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. You know, will they not, or can they not ponder the Quran? Or are there upon their hearts their own locks? And this is what I want to focus on here, this word here, because it doesn't say that are there locks upon the heart. It says, are there on the heart their own locks? Their own locks. أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Its own locks. And this is the thing, okay? You can look at the verse and look at the context, but what I want to highlight is that single part, okay? That no one can place a lock upon your heart, okay? You do that yourself. Nobody else can actually lock up your heart in any kind of way. The heart is completely independent, okay? Which is why God is testing the human heart, okay? Nobody can force or push your heart one way or the other. Your heart is completely free, completely independent. And the only way it gets locked up is if you lock it up yourself using its own locks. Okay, the heart has locks, and you can lock up your own heart in that kind of way. So what kind of locks are there? Well, there are locks of your sects, maybe, the tafsir books, the locks of hadiths, the sayings of imams, the sayings of dogmas, aqidas. All of these can be locks because they can all prevent you from actually thinking about different verses of the Quran. So instead of actually pondering a verse, you say, okay, Imam so-and-so said this, and that's it. That prevents any further inquiry into the verse. You've locked yourself out from it there. Okay, so all of these locks that some may have accepted and which lock them out of the Quran, some they prevent them from pondering it and taking guidance from it, you know, right now in their own lives right now. Instead, they think they must understand the Quran according to the tafsir books and the knowledge of tafsir, or according to the first generation, the Salaf, or according to the Sahaba, or Ibn Abbas is a big one, because, you know, the Prophet is prayed apparently for him to have knowledge of the book, okay? Or the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, or even the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when in fact the Quran is greater than all of them, okay? The Quran is Kalamullah, it's greater than all of them, okay? None of them were ever able to encompass the Quran at all. And it was sent, of course, until the end of time, okay? None of them were. Okay, even the Prophet, he wasn't sent to be among us until the end of time. All right, he was sent to be among us just in our time now. Okay, so for example, in another 2,000 years, when human life looks completely different, okay, in a way that we can't even imagine it, will these people still be saying, you know, they want to understand a verse in the way that Ibn Abbas understood it? Okay, how then can it be a dhikr for the alameen, a reminder for mankind and for the end of times, if we then lock it up into the first century, you know, of the Sahaba or the Salaf or the Ahlul Bayt or even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so that's just the thing which I wanted to talk about here. So what do you need then in order to contemplate the Quran? Okay, the answer is given in the Quran, of course. It says, this is in Surah Yasin, وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لَهُ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا ذِكْرٌ وَقُرْآنٌ مُبِينٌ. Okay, we did not teach him poetry, nor is it proper for him. It is only a reminder and a clear Quran, that it may warn whoever is alive. لِيُنذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ. Okay, and it will prove the word against the kafirin. The important point here is, of course, that the Quran will warn whoever is alive. Okay, the one who is dead will never be able to be warned from the Quran. You can't warn them using the Quran. Okay, you have to be alive. All right, the person who is spiritually dead, they just can't be warned by the Quran. Okay, so all centers on the heart. And another verse, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى for who? Indeed, and that is a reminder for who? For whoever has a heart. Whoever has a heart, or a second option here, or who listens attentively while being a witness. لِمَنْ كَانَ لَهُ قَلْبٌ أَوْ أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ وَهُوَ شَهِيدٌ. This word أَلْقَى السَّمْعَ is very interesting because it literally says throws out your hearing. Okay, so listening attentively, like straining your ears out to hear. So you really want to hear, you're really earnest in hearing and listening. Okay, while at the same time being a shaheed, a witness. And we spoke about this last time, that being a witness means being a witness for truth, for God. In most of the translation, it says, and the person is present. No, the idea here, which is throughout the Quran, is to be a witness for God. Okay, we talked about it last time when we spoke about how the singular piece of advice the Prophet was told to give is that people will stand up and يقوموا لله مثنى وفرادى, that they stand up for God. مثنى وفرادى. The standing up قوموا لله is all about shahada. Okay, الذين هم بشهاداتهم قائمون. Those who in their shahada, in their witnessing, they stand up. Okay, so this is the same concept. Okay, ألقى السمع وهو شهيد. You listen attentively, and in your listening, you are being a witness for the truth. Okay, so that's all you need. You need the heart. You need to have a heart. You know, in English we say have a heart, right? Have a heart. Okay, but if you don't even have that, then you need to truly listen, and in your listening, be a true witness for the truth. Okay, don't be a witness for your madhab, for your sheikh, for your imam, for this hadith, for that hadith. No, you be a witness for the truth, even against yourself, and even against your sect, your family, whoever it is. Okay, so that's basically the brunt of what I wanted to mention today. Another thing I thought I added this just now. I thought I'd talk a little bit about fasting and the priorities, because of course now within my channel, a lot of people who are strict Quraniyun, who just follow only the Quran and they completely ignore all of history, which is fine. And in doing that, you can be completely guided with only the Quran and completely ignoring all history, all tafsir, all hadith, everything. That's fine. Okay, but now there's a lot. It's sort of like in the search, the perpetual search for the way to pray among the Quranist community. Always looking about the way to pray from the Quran. And so there are now people, of course, who want to find out when is the true Ramadan. So they say, Ramadan that we have now, that isn't the true Ramadan. But I just want to pull back on that a little bit and look at the verses of fasting and look at the priorities. So if we look at the verses, the very first verse, okay, when it's talking about fasting, is يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. The key thing, of course, which all of us should know by now, hopefully, inshallah, is that fasting is to attain taqwa. It's to gain taqwa. That's the priority. So fasting was enjoined. It doesn't say fasting in Ramadan was enjoined so you can gain taqwa. Okay, it just says fasting, blanket fasting. Okay, has been enjoined and written for you in order that you may attain taqwa. That's number one. The second verse, what does it talk about? It talks about the number of days. Ayyaman ma'dudat. Almost a full stop here. A set number of days. That's the second most important thing. Okay, so you are fasting to gain taqwa. The second most important thing is it's a set number of days. And then it tells you, so that even if some of you are on a journey or you are sick, then an equal number of days must be made up later. And upon those who are able to fast, you must ransom, etc. Okay, but the key thing here is now it's talking about number of days. Still, we're not even discussing the Ramadan. Ramadan has not entered into the picture. 2 verses into the whole description about fasting, and nowhere yet are we talking about Ramadan. Only the next verse do we say شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. In Ramadan is when the Quran was revealed. So whoever witnesses the month, okay, let them fast. All right. So now we are talking about that. Yeah, but again, it goes back very quickly. But whoever is on a journey or whatever, then it's on a journey or sick, then عدة من أيام أخرى. Then a set number of other days. يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر. God wants ease for you. He doesn't want hardship. You don't have to think that Ramadan is the be all and end all of fasting. It isn't. Okay, it isn't. Okay, yes, that's when the Quran was revealed, and so God wants us all to unite in fasting in that month. Okay, but if you're sick or on a journey, عدة من أيام أخرى. Okay, then a set number of days at another time. God wants ease for you. He does not want difficulty. وَلِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ, and so that you may complete the number of days. وَتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Okay, that's the main thing. Again, we're going back to the number. Okay, لِتُكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ, to complete the number of days. Okay, so if we think about it in that way, from the order of these verses and how they are laid out, we could easily conclude that the least most important thing about fasting is that it is done in Ramadan. Okay, in fact, it's the least most important thing, with the exception of the actual start and finish times, which I mentioned even later. Okay, there's a verse in between all of that which starts talking about, calling on Allah, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عَنْ عِبَادِي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. All right, and then afterwards it talks about the exact times to start fasting, the white thread and the black thread of dawn, etc. All right, so that those things are even less important than Ramadan. Okay, so if we can put the order of priorities like this. Number one goal of fasting is to attain taqwa. That can be done with fasting in any time during the year. It doesn't have to be in Ramadan. It isn't limited to Ramadan. You can fast a certain number of days anytime during the year in order to attain taqwa. The fasting will help you to do that. Number two is to complete a certain number of days. God wants us to complete a certain number of days, and that's mentioned by Shahr Ramadan. Shahr is 30 days, so you need to complete 30 days of fasting. Okay, and if you can do in Ramadan, well, you should do in Ramadan. It's the command. I don't want to belittle that. You should still do it in Ramadan. But for those who are, asking, when is Ramadan? They're confused about it, or they think it's not the Ramadan now. That's not important. Okay, it's not as important. It's like the third thing on the list. Then after that is the actual, when to fast. From Fajr to night. Okay, the actual timings of the fasting. Okay, that's even lower on the list of when to fast. You could, for those people who are living in, very northern climates or southern, okay, they can move that around. It's not as important. Okay, more important is to attain taqwa, then to complete a certain number of days, then to try to do in Ramadan, and then the least thing is the actual, timings. So northern climate, somebody could start the fasting from sunrise. Okay, it's not as big an issue. Okay, so now fasting is a practice. Of course, it's recognized by all spiritual disciplines as being something that purifies and whitens the heart. If you look at the Muslim Sufi tradition or the Buddhist anything, they will tell you that hunger whitens the heart. Okay, and it loosens your attachments to this world. Okay, and that's what's important. Okay, not that it's done in Ramadan. So even if you don't believe that this month we're in now is Ramadan, okay, if you still think that fasting with everyone else will make it easier for you to attain taqwa, then you should fast in this month. Okay, even if you don't believe it's Ramadan, fast with everybody else and then fast in the next month, which you think it is Ramadan. Okay, but because there is, I personally believe there is a sort of spiritual connection. We're all connected in some way. Humanity is connected in a certain way. If you ever heard of the theory called morphic resonance by Rupert Sheldrake, okay, you have, like, for example, rats of one species in Australia. If they're taught a certain trick, then the rats of the same species in America will learn that trick quicker. Okay, there's also this thing where they would take newspapers which have the crossword puzzles, okay, and you give them to inmates in prison, and they solve them at the same rate as the normal population. Okay, but if you give them the crossword puzzles which were solved last week or a few days ago, the people in prison will solve them quicker, okay, because they've already been solved. And there are other, links of that. Crystals which have been, which are formed for the very first time are difficult to form. But once a crystal has been formed, all around the world, they are formed much easier. Anyway, that's a side issue. But I'm just saying that when everybody, so many people, how many Muslims are there? 1.6, 1.5 billion Muslims around the world are all fasting. Okay, if you believe that there's a certain link between us, that humanity is united in a certain way, then you can ride that wave to help you attain taqwa. Okay, by fasting when everybody else is fasting, even if you don't think it's Ramadan. All right. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to share today. Let's see. We have somebody here who would like to come on. Excellent. Let me first of all remove this. I'll leave it like that. Welcome, Saras. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, Saras. Oh, he's disappeared. All right. Anybody else? Let me see some of the chats. We have here from Safety. Let me show that comment. If Ramadan was a month considered when Muslims began fasting, then Ramadan fell as a month during the time of the Prophet, given that the Hajj calendar was introduced after Muhammad's death. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen all of the arguments for and against when Ramadan is. But I don't find them convincing because I don't see how the whole ummah could just miss out on a month. Okay, that it would just disappear, and it's I don't see how it's possible when you have a living tradition. But that's my take on it. You don't need to accept that. Somebody else here says, Al-Kazaz, I had something I wanted to discuss concerning Salat and word usage in the Quran that has been on my mind, but I would like to look into it more before discussing. That's fine. When you feel up to it, please do come back and share with us. I don't think I'm ready. Perhaps another time. Okay, no problem. That's fine. And Kazaz, absolutely fine. Anybody else? How many do we have here watching? 12 watching. That's fine. Ramadan, I'm guessing most people have just finished their food and they're digesting. Where I am, we finished the fast around a couple of hours ago. Ashraf says, how about the spiritual power fasting builds in order to stand up against oppressors? As we understand, the Battle of Badr was in Ramadan when the companions were fasting. That's true. Well, it comes in that tradition that it was during Ramadan. Most of them were not fasting, though. I think only a few of them continued the fast. How does it help? Now, it can help because look, the Battle of Badr. There's a lot of interesting things over there because you had this. There was the angels were there, and I know that there are people who have different. I have my own interpretation of how the angels were involved in that battle. But yes, when somebody is in a fasting state and more detached from the dunya, more detached from the world, then yes, when they're more likely to stand firm against the enemy and enemy combatant. So yes, I can see that. Do you think Taraweeh is a bid'ah? No, I don't. The whole concept of bid'ah, and I don't find it to be an issue. I mean, this is something which was pushed very, very harshly, of course, by the Salafis. But I don't see how God would be upset with people gathering for Salah in the mosques during Ramadan. Okay, even because the issue also of Salah as well. I mean, my understanding of Salah is much more fluid. That of course we have the uswa of the Prophet. I mean, I pray the 5 times prayer normally, but we are more free to pray how we like. We are given leeway, okay, to pray how we want, if we want to. Shi'at say that it's bid'ah. Salafis don't. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But again, look, it's not a big issue. I mean, when it comes if we look at if we're going to go into hadiths and stuff, the Prophet did a few nights and then stopped. But these are lesser issues. The thing with Salah, if you want to know about Salah and what's important in Salah, it's not these things at all. Just like now when we discussed about fasting, and Ramadan is not the be all and end all of it. There's nothing uniquely special or of course we don't know the ghaib, but I don't think there's anything which is just by virtue of it being Ramadan, it's the fast makes you have more taqwa just because of it. No, you can do fasting at any time during the year to gain taqwa. Which school of theology of all the traditional schools, not just the Sunnis, do you think is the closest to what you think the truth would be? That's a difficult one. I haven't thought about theology and Aqidah for a very long time. Maybe the Ibadis, I'm not sure, or the Zaydis, I'm not sure. Definitely not the Salafis, to be honest. The Salafis have inherited a lot, which has come from the extremist Hanbalis, and they've taken a lot from the Umayyads, who mixed a lot of things from the Israelites, because you had the old alliance was brought back, the alliance of Quraysh with the Ahl al-Kitab, which is mentioned in the Quran. When Quraysh, epitomized by Banu Umayyah, when they became in charge, they brought back that link. Yeah, I would also like to know your thoughts on angels. Yeah, angels is a very interesting topic, because it's one of those topics where it's not very well studied. We don't know much about it. Nobody ever thinks about them. When you're asked, they talk about you must believe in God, the last day, the prophets, the books, the angels. Okay, you can write a lot about what's being said regarding Allah or the books or the messengers, or the last day. But as for the angels, not much is thought about it, right? People don't really think about it. But the angels are active. The angels are part, they are active in this world. Hassan Maliki mentioned this incident where he says, for example, there was this one person who he knows, who this is in Saudi, of course, who would visit him and tell him, look, I would be a complete atheist and reject all religion. He rejects Islam, but I still believe in God. He says the reason why I believe in God is because an incident happened to me, which is that one time he was playing on the street, football. He was a kid, and the football got kicked into the road, and he ran across it, and then a car was speeding, and he almost got hit by the car, but he literally I felt an actual hand, grab me from behind and pull me back. And of course, when he turned around, there was nobody there. He says that this one thing in his life has kept him a believer in the unseen and in God. He said, otherwise I would not believe at all. So why can't we say that this is angel which has pulled him back? Or in other situations, you see that all the time. These videos that go out where somebody's standing on the street and he's just standing in one place, looking at his phone or something, and then he moves. He just steps a few steps to the left or to the right, and suddenly in that exact spot where he was, something, a telephone pole or something came down and smacked. And if he had stayed there, he would have been killed. Okay, why can't we say that an angel inspired him to move, and these sort of things? So the angels, they are active in our lives, I believe. Do you agree with the traditional understanding of Laylatul Qadr? Yes, generally, Laylatul Qadr is just what it says, that تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها. Generally, I do. I think. I haven't really re-examined this. There's a lot which I haven't re-examined. So most of what I think is going to be generally sort of I don't know, or I haven't really looked into it to re-examine it in terms of these sort of things. But yeah, generally, Laylatul Qadr, that's one example. The person who asked about the angels, that's one day where a lot of angels will descend, right? That was this question. Okay, anybody would like to come onto the broadcast? We have a good number of people. 11. If you should try as best you can during this Ramadan to recite of the Quran as much as you can. You don't have to complete the whole Quran. In fact, the last 2 years I haven't actually made a consistent attempt to actually recite it all from back to front. I used to every Ramadan for years. I would recite it all. Now I find it more difficult to do so, because I've gone away from just reciting. So now I'd be reciting, and just a single verse would make me sit there and think about it for a long time. And then so if I want to recite the whole of the Quran, I either have to ignore thinking about it now, because so many things just leap out at me which I've never seen or never noticed. So I'd have to ignore them and just carry on just to finish. Or I'd rather just pause with what I've noticed in the Quran and just think on it in that time. So I allocate myself a certain amount of time where I will sit with the Quran, and read it, and if I get through half a page, 2 pages, it all depends on how much I sort of receive from it. Yeah, I read it in Arabic and recite it in Arabic. Yeah, so I sit and I read it and recite it in Arabic, but not in the way I used to. I used to just recite it to go through it. Now, my mind is sort of more active and open to it. So as I recite, things just pop out at me, and I'm almost forced to stop and think about them. I can't just let them go past. So it takes me, like, I've got a khatim of the Quran which I've been doing now for 2 years, and I still haven't done it. Still haven't finished it because I'll recite something, and it will just make me pause and think for a very long time about it, and maybe it will make me think of another surah, another ayah, and I'll go and see that, and I'll start to connect different things together. So I end up stopping that way. Yeah, exactly. Write down the verses of interest. It's a very good idea. I highly recommend that we all have our smartphones now, that you have for yourself a note-taking app. I mean, I use Evernote, so I have on my Evernote whenever phone is never far away. So whenever I come across something, an idea or something from the Quran, I jot it down on my Evernote very quickly. I'm trying to move away from Evernote because the desktop version is not very good. It's not very stable, and also there are other note-taking apps which help facilitate linking ideas together and thinking and pondering. So I want to get into using an app called Obsidian. Even this app, which I've done this presentation with now, that's called LogSync. It's an online note-taking app, which is very good as well. It's got backlinking like Obsidian, so you can link things together and you can get a mind map of everything that you've recorded. All right. What I want to say is that the next stream I'll do is probably going to be on Saturday, and there was something I was going to do it today, but it's a pretty nice topic. It's actually one of the reasons why it was a day which I decided to start doing these streams, this caravan of contemplation. I decided it on this day which I came across something which, it's a surah which I've read all of my life. Read it almost in every night in the Witr Salah. It's recommended, or the traditional ways. Traditionally, it's been recommended. Yet that was the first time I noticed something in it, which in regards to hellfire and the whole issue of people who find it difficult to understand about hellfire and how can you have hell forever, and is it just, unjust, etc. So I came across something amazing on that. So I want to go into that on the next stream. I was going to go into that today, but I wanted to test out how this setup would be of this microphone stand, and if I could get this presentation to work. It looked like it worked pretty well. So on Saturday I'll be presenting that. Somebody asked me about it a little bit on Reddit. So if anybody is on Reddit and they've seen my profile there, if they can check the comment section on that. Or somebody was asking, is there any evidence in the Quran that the paradise is not eternal? So I put something of what I stumbled across just a few days ago, and but I want to elaborate on it on Saturday's stream. Yeah, everlasting hell is just, and so you have different people who say different things. Some people will say everlasting hell is just, and some will say no, it's not. And there are arguments for both. I mean, I definitely tend towards the idea that no, hell is eternal. But like I said, I'll discuss that later. I've basically to put it in a one-liner. It's eternal, but the punishment in it is still finite. It's not infinite. Okay, so hell is eternal, but the punishment in it is not. It's not infinite. It's not infinite. It's finite. It's finite punishment across eternity. But I'll try to get into that later. Oh yeah, so okay, so that's you. Arabian Night. Yeah, whenever you enter, you can change your name. How do you change your name so quickly? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I don't know if you guys can hear a lot of the background noise. I mean, this microphone, one of the reasons I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it is because I can hear it picking up a lot of background noise. Let's say I'm just that good. You're just that good, yeah. MashaAllah. Yeah, the punishment will not be lightened. Yeah. No, I know that verse as well. But again, I have an idea for that. Again, it's not that it will be lightened. Okay, it's still a finite amount. It's a finite amount. Okay, so for example, taking that same verse, the punishment will not be lightened. It will also not be increased. Okay, right? If it will not be lightened, it will not be increased either. I mean, you can't have it be, you say it will not be lightened, but then say, no, we're going to increase the punishment till forever. All right. There is a verse though which says, "لن نزيدكم إلا عذابا." Okay, but that again, it's got a different context. I want to go into that much easier in a more fluid way. Yeah, that's one of the verses which actually I'm using for this idea. But like I said, I'll speak about it on Saturday, because I don't want to, if I open it up now, I won't be able to stop, and I don't want to stop halfway. Yeah, the punishment has been doubled. يضاعف له العذاب ضعفين, for example, will be doubled. Yeah, it will be doubled because of they've earned double the amount of wrath. But it's not going to be doubled once they are in hell. So, for example, some people who have done certain ill deeds and they've taught it to others, okay, and they've done those ill deeds, they will receive some of that on themselves. What time on Saturday? Probably around this time, I think. I'll see what the feedback is on doing the live stream around this time, but I think around this time is probably best. I think most people in the UK now, it's around 7. Well, it was around 7, so it's before iftar time or after, I'm not sure. People in the US might be able to catch this one. The last time I did it was too early for a lot of people. Yeah, right before iftar. Good. All right, excellent. But yeah, I would like to get it at a time where more people can come on, and then we'll have more people who are, who would like to come on and share something. It's noon in the US East. Okay, nice. All right, brilliant, excellent. Okay, so just to let you know, it's going to be Saturday. Saturday, around, like I said, around the same time as now. So, this has now been 40 minutes running. So around that time. And it's 18:35 in the UK. That's good, So on Saturday, 18:35 UK time. That's pretty good. So 6 o'clock UK time and around noon US time, And I'm probably at the furthest. I know I do have a few people who watch this channel from Malaysia. Just looking at the analytics, there's a few people from Malaysia, but I think the brunt of the people are from the UK and the US. So we'll try to have it on the times which is best for them. What's his question? What do you think about the possibility that the Quran is a universal message that was known to all the prophets? The Quran, I've never thought of that at all. That's interesting. Why don't you come on next time and try to elaborate on that, Adnan? That's interesting. Known to all the prophets in what way, though? As in, they knew about the inspiration in it. I think it's possible. The Quran is a zikr, So it's more that it encompasses the previous revelations. It's a reminder, well, inside it is a reminder for the things previous. But that's interesting. I'd have to think about that. This question: where do you go for rulings when you want to know if something is halal or something specific? Yeah, no, I don't really go to anybody for rulings. I don't know if that's because I already know most of the rulings, or because now I just don't trust them most. I don't think there is much which you need to have rulings for. In fact, I think that's, like in the Quran mentions that if only when it talks about it's not for the believers to all go out together, to battle, but from each, faction there should remain some people who should learn يتفقهوا في الدين. But the reason is not so that they can give hukum to the people when they come back. It's لينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم, so that they may warn their people. The primary duty of somebody who gains fiqh, true understanding of the deen, of the Quran, it's not that they go around giving rulings to people. Okay, it's that they warn people, that they become a warner. Okay, لينذر قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم. It's not that they start becoming, giving fatwas left, right, and center. So even just that, to be honest, the fact that that a lot of the traditional scholars, they don't have that perspective. Okay, that that people will come to them and for every topic they will give a ruling. All right, and whereas there are many rulings, there are some rulings which are given in the Quran, which Allah says, I will give the ruling on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right, and that hasn't stopped them from giving the rulings now. When Allah tells you that He's going to give a ruling on something on Yawm al-Qiyamah, then that's it. You need to basically be quiet about that. You're not supposed to go in front of God and give the ruling now. He has said He's aware of this. He's aware of this issue, and He will give the ruling on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So that means you be quiet. Don't talk about it. If He wanted to give the ruling on it, He would have. So just the fact that when I see somebody who answers everything, okay, and especially answers everything with haram, then I'm very, very skeptical, shall we say. Salams from Australia. Excellent, Adnan. What time is it in Australia over there? Let me go down. I'm missing some of this chat. Okay, yes. Go ahead and discuss that if you can. Kazaz, excellent. Warner sounds like Sam Gerrans. Yeah, I haven't watched much of his stuff. As far as I can tell, he's somebody who's, mashallah, he's dedicated himself to, to translating the Quran. He's dedicated himself to the Quran. There are things, of course, which I'm not too sure about. People have mentioned things about him to me, but I haven't looked deeply into his stuff. But no, but that is, the verse just says that. It says, لولا نفر من كل فرقة لولا نذر من كل فرقة طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ولينذر قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. That's my phone going. So yeah, it just says that. It says that they are going, excellent, somebody's come on. Sam, UK. I'm going to add you now, Sam.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Assalamu alaikum, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good.
Excellent. Brilliant to have you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Good, yeah. Good.
Excellent. Good to hear from you on here. How's everything? Of course, I know Sam from Reddit, and also he was somebody who came onto those the answering Quranist streams. He managed to get a good amount of time with those guys. I didn't. I got on and I got thrown out pretty quickly. But alhamdulillah. But at least it got me into contact with you, Sam. So how are you? Is there anything that you want to come on and share with us?
I can't think of anything at the moment.
No problem. There's no pressure.
If I think of something, I'll let you know.
Yeah, if you think of something, let us know, definitely, especially for the next one is going to be on Saturday. Okay, so if you have anything to contribute, come on there. You can be the first person who who brings something. It doesn't have to. By the way, guys, it doesn't have to be something new. It doesn't have to be something that nobody else has thought of before. It can be just something which benefits. Okay, ذكر, it's a reminder. فإن ذكرى تنفع المؤمنين. The reminder benefits the believers, benefits the faithful. So it doesn't have to be something new. It can be just something which even for you, just personally, is something which has helped you and which helps set you straight in your everyday life. So just come on and share. It will encourage other people to share, if nothing else.
Yeah, I've thought of something.
Yeah, go ahead. Brilliant.
I mean, I'm sort of like, I like using science to prove God.
Yeah.
I know there's some people there, they're like, I don't know, they just have the faith, and I don't know, they take verses from the Quran and they just say, oh, this is a miracle. But I think they miss the other miracles, like when God says, He sends the rain. The rain itself, I see as a miracle. The weather, that's a miracle. When He says He creates life, that in itself is a miracle. But the problem is, people see that every day, and they don't see the miracle. They're looking for something extraordinary, like Moses parting the Red Sea.
Yeah. No, that's definitely I agree with that, because it's something which is reiterated in the Quran. It's not reiterated because because it's trivial. It's actually there's a lot of something which is deep behind that. But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
So I was trying to explain to my kids that people looking out for sign like the red the seas parting, but then I said, look, if you look at the human, look at any cell here, any living thing, you look at that closely, that is a bigger miracle than the Red Sea parting, because there's so many complex processes going on in place in when a cell goes about doing its stuff, the way it's structured, the way it's stable. It's mind-boggling, but when people see it, when see it in sort of biology lesson, whatever, it's like I don't know, they're not understanding the miracle. And I'm trying to explain to my kids here, look, everything starts off dead, and to make something come together in structure and go about doing a certain function, it just doesn't happen,
no, exactly. I mean, these things which you mentioned there, these are things which can be studied. Okay, these things are things which touch the intellect and they touch the hearts. Whereas parting the sea, okay, if it happens once, you can't study that. There's nothing inside that which is happens once and it's gone. Okay, and that's it. And then once it's gone, you can think to yourself, okay, did I really see that? Was my mind playing tricks on me? Okay, and one of the other issues, of course, the Quran says that the only reason what has prevented us from sending such signs is that the former peoples denied them. I mean, most of the miracles which came to former peoples, the peoples who saw them actually denied them, right? Isa, he brought back the dead. He brought back he made from clay, he made living birds. He did all of these wondrous things, and then even the people who believed in him, even the disciples, they ended up asking him, okay, then, ask your Lord to send a laden food with a table of laden food from the sky. Okay, and he says to them, "Ittaqullah, have taqwa of Allah." I've been sent as you as a messenger. You've seen me do all these wonders, and now you want this as well. So it doesn't stop. Once somebody tries to put their faith in miracles, it doesn't stop, because a miracle will never give you faith in your heart. Okay, you can see the miracle. It's something outside. It's external. You see it once, and then it doesn't really affect your heart. Okay, there are some people. The issue of miracles is that they help to remove the barrier. Okay, they can remove the barrier which you've erected on your own hearts. Just like we were talking about the locks on the heart, a miracle can help remove these barriers, these locks. But then your heart actually respond to the truth. Whereas if that isn't present, then you can have miracle after miracle after miracle. You're not going to get that faith that you think you will get once you have that miracle. Okay, it doesn't come. So the disciples of Jesus, they said, yes, we want now something to eat from. Bring us something from the sky that we can eat, and then we can believe that you have told us the truth. Okay, but what about all of those miracles before? Didn't they help you? Didn't they help? So it's definitely that, you know, there's a lot more power in the intellectual science all around us, the things that we can actually look at and understand and ponder, you know, and those things can find their way deeply into our hearts and souls in a way that an external miracle of just somebody, you know, bringing somebody to life, it can't. Okay, that has a shock factor. Okay, has a shock factor, which then, you know, lets the people around put their guard down. Okay, their guard comes down, and now they can be, you know, they can be reached. The message can reach them. So I definitely wholeheartedly agree with that.
Well, I think, you know, the Prophet Muhammad didn't do any miracles, because I think the whole aim, or because he came to confirm the message of Moses and Jesus, and he was more there to. I mean, maybe the believers, yeah, when they're at the Battle of Badr, you know, when they were outnumbered, yeah, maybe that was for them a miracle, yeah. But in terms of like miracle like Jesus did, yeah, or Moses did, I don't think he did do any miracle like that. Yeah. And the point of the Quran was, yeah, to make people think, to really understand, and more God using more logical arguments against Quraysh to say, look, you know, how can you have these gods, yeah, that you know, that they don't create anything, and they, you know, they've been made up, and you have no book. And it was more, I think, more arguing intellectually to get people to think, rather than, you know, showing a miracle.
Yeah, no, definitely, because like I said, you know, it's more impactful. Okay, it's more impactful because also, you know, a miracle will not convince you of something which you know to be falsehood, would it? I mean, if somebody says to you, you know, by the way, I think 2 + 2 = 5, and you say, oh no, it's not, it's 4. No, I can prove it. Watch, I'm going to fly in the air, and they fly in the air, or I'm going to bring somebody back to life, and they bring somebody back from life. That's not going to change your absolute certainty that 2 + 2 = 4, not 5. So there's much more power in the human reason and human understanding, and having the veil lifted out from your heart to be able to have a, you know, insight into something, to see not just with the physical eyes but also with the inner sight. There's much more power in that than there is in seeing a miracle with your physical eyes. Okay, it's not that. Let me just look at this question he asked here. What do you think is the meaning of al-kitab, the Quran, the book, or the law, or both? I think it means just the book. Okay, but I have sort of another idea about that. So these terms, Quran and book. So I think the Quran means the inner. I mentioned this, I think, in one of my, you know, one of those long videos which I do. Which the Quran is sort of the deeper reading of the book. So Allah says, you know, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنٌ كَرِيمٌ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ. It is a noble Quran. Maknoon is like hidden garden. In a kitab, in the kitab. لَا يَمَسُّهُ إِلَّا الْمُطَهَّرُونَ. None can touch it intellectually, not lamps with the hand, but mess with the intellect. None can touch it except those who have some purity. So the Quran is the inner meaning which is in the book, okay, and you can't get to that without some degree of purity. And the book is just literally what can be written. I mean, I don't like the. I mean, I mentioned in that video, I think we were talking about, it came up because I was talking about Shahrur, Allah yarhamu, and he has a very elaborate descriptions of, you know, the Kitab means this, Quran means this, Furqan means this. They're very elaborate. I think you can just take what the word is, and that's more than enough. You know, the word that Allah has described this thing with is a true reflection of what it is. A Quran is a reading, a real reading, when you read something. Okay, not just I think it's a real reading. Okay, Kitab is what can be written down on it. Okay, what can be written, what can be written of it. Okay, so when you read something, you can get a lot more than just what's written down in the actual words. All right, so that's how I generally see it. That's the global view of it. Of course, there are specific incidents in the Quran where kitab can mean, you know, a contract. It can mean these different things. But the general idea of the global view of Quran, kitab, and zikr, for example, zikr is those things in the Quran which are a zikr, which are a reminder. It's not the things in the Quran which are new, which are only for us, for our ummah. Okay, no, they are the things which are a reminder, which have been there in all the previous revelations. That's why they're called dhikr, reminder. So that's how I see that generally. All right, okay. We're coming up to an hour now, so I really don't want to make these into too long. I don't want to get people bored of them. It's brilliant having you, Sam, coming on for us. But I think if there's nobody else who wants to come on, I think I want to end it there because I want to keep it on the hour mark, not more than that. And then, inshallah, it won't become, listening to these things won't become a burden even when replaying them. So just want to say again, thank you for everybody who came on. It's a very nice presentation at the beginning. Thank you so much for that. So please do remember, reach out to anybody else. You know, I really do want to have people who can come on and just share their insights into the Quran. You know, I'm sure that, you know, within a few months we'll start, you know, hearing some truly amazing things from different people. There are people out there who really do sit and ponder the Quran. Generally, I don't think you're gonna find them on the YouTube scene. But if we can get some of us, you know, you can reach out to some of them. They can share something with you, and you can bring it on here for us to benefit from. It will be excellent. And that's what I'm hoping. Like I said, I'm hoping that one day, you know, to have the backstage full of people who want to come on and share different insights from different verses. Yeah, and like I said, it's always going to be, I want to receive them in the spirit of just receiving and listening and understanding. I don't want to have it into, you know, an atmosphere of where we start discussing the validity of somebody else's views. You know, I don't want that. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody. God bless you all. Sam, I'm going to remove you now, and then I'm going to end the stream, okay?
Yeah, take care.
All right, thank you so much for coming on. Barakallah feek. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. So again, thank you so much for coming, and until Saturday, God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.